I'm Stephen Mander-Jones. I'm a gameplay designer at 2K Australia.
I'm Anthony Birch. I'm a writer at Gearbox, and we're going to talk about Athena while you watch gameplay of Athena in Borderlands, the pre-sequel.
Looks like we're ready to go. So, Anthony, do you want to tell us a little bit about what part of the story we're at here?
No. Yeah, we're on the moon. This is Elpis. This is Pandora's moon. That's Pandora in the distance. This is the first time you can actually see it from not being on the planet. So Helios to your left, Chris. To your other left, you fucking. Okay, so that's the Hyperion space station that Handsome Jack has built, or he's building it in the pre-sequel. He's already built it by the time Borderlands 2 starts. At the beginning of the game, you get kicked out by a bunch of bad guys, and they basically take control of it to do some really bad stuff to the good people living on Elpis. So right now in the story, we're trying to find the jamming signal that's preventing us from getting back to Helios, and we're going to shut it down. And in order to do that, we're going to have to kill some Darksider scavengers to ingratiate ourselves to a different scavenger band and be able to get inside of their camp and murder all those guys. This is a game about teaching people how to be empathetic to scavengers on the moon by shooting them multiple times with the laser gun. So these are new art for the vending machines, and they're the best. The guns in space thing is one of my favorite things that's ever happened.
It's kind of cool.
It's really, really neat. So Chris is currently holding a laser gun. Steven, tell me about the laser gun.
Cool. So lasers are a whole new category of weapons we have in Borderlands, the pre-sequel. The one we've got here, it's a TDR laser weapon, so it has the usual TDR thing where when you reload it, you'll throw it like that, which explodes on the enemies, but lasers actually have an additional effect here for TDR where the thrown gun will actually zap guys as it flies through the air, so you get even more sort of damage through that reload mechanic.
Chris should show us that by reloading the gun while he's not 3 inches away from somebody.
There we go. Nice. And you'll also notice that sort of the firing mode of this laser gun is kind of like a railgun, and there's multiple firing modes for lasers. The railgun is when the weapon has a Hyperion barrel, but if it has different barrels, you can have like your traditional blaster type lasers or like your Ghostbusters beam and so on. So the laser category of weapon is actually more like several whole categories crammed into one because there's just tons of different variety there.
Chris using his tactics there when he was 5 feet away from somebody to switch to his sniper rifle because so elite.
Hey, why not? It's cool.
Yeah. So now he's got a legendary cryo pistol out. Yep. Maybe we'll be able to use. Oh, Chris, you big dumb idiot. That is a jump pad, but you didn't charge it up with a shot to the box that's attached to the jump pad. You nincompoop.
So he's overcharging the jump pad here by shooting that box, and now it won't quite be as lame, and it will actually get him to where he wants to be.
So we're going to go outside and do some low G gunfighting.
Yeah, and what we're going to see here as well is we've got a cryo pistol equipped, and cryo is one of our new elements in Borderlands the pre-sequel, so you can get different weapons or grenades that have this element on them, and as you can see, it can freeze the enemies when the status effect triggers. And when they're frozen, if you hit them with a melee attack or explosive damage, you can actually shatter them and deal all this extra damage. And they break into all little pieces, and it's kind of awesome. As Chris nicely demonstrated there.
And then things happen. So you have your cooldown back for your capstone for the rage, Saronic rage.
Yeah, so if we do a slam here, jump up in the air and slam down, see the
lightning
shock tether there, and then the Nova goes off, and you've got a whole bunch of your Maelstrom stacks, which you can see down the bottom.
Now the lightning tether has a cooldown of about 15 seconds?
Yeah, 15 seconds on that one. But it's good to use as frequently as you can for all the extra stacks you get from it.
They threw a grenade at you!
Yep, and we can see the lightning storm and the lightning and firestorm
and
there
he's
from
flying
Zeus's
away.
rage. And he's very
I used to have a
dead.
family!
Yeah, the cool thing about the slams is if you jump off a big height like that, the damage it does is actually exponentially increased the further you go. So,
oh shit, really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
It's sort of not like heavily communicated. It's just like if you start doing these big slams off roofs, you'll notice that you're almost killing guys in a single slam.
That's awesome.
It's cool if you get the opportunity to do it.
Chris is currently being obliterated by a capacitor Sugaroth, which are big creatures that you generally want to fight in vehicles, and they can spawn smaller enemies known as Wraithens.
So it looks like we're going to go and grab a vehicle, as you suggested. So this is one of our new ones here. It's the Moon Buggy. It's got a couple of weapon variants here. Looks like we're going to grab the missile pod and hop into it. So players who've used the runner in Borderlands 1 and 2 will be pretty familiar with this kind of vehicle, although it handles a little bit different, obviously, because we're on the moon now. But yeah, as we can see, it's got some cool new guns. We've got the missile pod there, which fires a big volley of homing missiles, which will sort of home in on whatever target is under your reticle. And this is a two-person vehicle, so if you've got a friend, they can hop into the back and man the guns for you. Cool, so now we're going to have a look at one of our other new vehicles called the Stingray, which I'm just going to load one up here. So got a couple of weapon options again, so we're going to grab the Cryo Rocket Stingray. Pick ourselves a new skin.
We're also cheating because you're not actually quite supposed to have it this early on in the game. We're just showing it to you just to show it to you because it's fun.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. So as you can see, it's like a hover bike. You're sort of hovering above the ground and cruise around. It has, instead of an afterburner, as you can see here, it actually has a vertical boost that you can use to jump across things or up onto higher levels.
Hit a sick ramp, Chris. Chris, hit a sick ramp. Chris, you're not hitting a sick ramp. That one. Right there.
Don't mess it up.
3, 2, 1, sick ramp. You did it. America was counting on you and you did it.
The other cool thing it can do is when you're up in the air, if you hit what is normally the handbrake button, you can slam back down to the ground and pancake enemies. There you go.
There we go.
There you can pancake dudes and he's dead. And that's the Cryo Rocket weapon. Not so good up close, needs a little bit of distance to get its homing working. And the other thing you'll notice with this is it's obviously a single-person vehicle, which is the first time Borderlands has had just a one-passenger vehicle. Normally they've been two before.
What are my 3 friends going to do on in one of those?
Well, we fortunately thought of that, and you can actually grab 4 Stingrays in a single game, so all
That's
of your
ridiculous.
friends can have one each.
That's unprecedented.
Yep. It's kind of cool. It's like a swarm of angry hover bee bike things.
I don't believe it.
Yeah.
That cryo rocket sure seems to immobilize enemies from a distance.
Yeah.
Look, a meteor. Make a wish. What's your wish, Steven?
For fat loot.
Fair enough. Well done.
Well, that's what Borderlands is about, right?
Good answer.
What else would be appropriate to say here?
World peace? You fucking selfish.
I don't think that's in character.
Nice moon skybox.
Cool, so we'll jump into Athena's skill trees here. So first up we've got her action skill, which is called Kinetic Aspis. Basically it's Athena's personal shield, and when she activates it she pulls up her shield and she can prevent all incoming damage from a frontal direction, and not only that, the shield will store that incoming damage and she can then throw it out into her enemies and deal double that damage back to them.
That sounds incredible. Tell me more about the individual skill trees.
Yeah, sure. So first up we've got the Phalanx Tree, which is heavily focused on her action skill, the Aspis, and buffing that up and giving it additional effects. For example, she can change it so that it will absorb incoming elemental damage types with the Prismatic Aegis skill here. So if it's damaged by fire damage or shock damage, it will then deal that type back when she throws it out, which is really cool.
That's electrifying, Steven.
There's also some really good co-op buffs in this skill tree, so if you're playing with friends, you've got nice ways to sort of protect your friends, heal them, pull them out of fight for your life, or draw aggro from the enemies back onto Athena. So if you're playing like with a partner or in a group, this is a really good skill tree for that. The capstone skill of this one is also really cool. It's called Wrath of the Goddess here. It basically allows the Aspis to jump to additional enemies when she throws it. So, like, if you've filled it right up with a ton of energy, you can just wipe out a whole room of dudes with that one. It's super cool.
So that tree was about playing with friends. What if I'm alone in life?
Well, that skill tree will still work for you if you're alone in life.
That's amazing.
But moving on, we've got the Zyphus skill tree here, which is focused on her close combat weapon, which is her sword called Zyphus. It's an energy sword. So this skill tree is filled with lots of melee buffs and high mobility things, And one of the key features of this skill tree is with the Ren skill on the 3rd tier here, she unlocks a new status effect for herself, which is a bleed. So her melee attacks will cause enemies to bleed over time. And then moving on from that, she has skills like Bloodlust on the next tier, which will help her regenerate health as she makes people bleed. So as she spreads her bleeds around the battlefield, she gets stronger and stronger and can keep going. And as we get down to her capstone skill here, which is called Blood Rush, it basically converts her melee attack into like a dashing strike, so that helps her get those bleeds going on her targets. And the cool thing about this skill is if it hits a target that isn't bleeding or kills someone, the cooldown it has is immediately reset, so you can sort of chain it between a bunch of enemies and just get them all bleeding at once, which is really cool.
That was an interesting screen to go to, Chris.
So much to learn.
Tell us more about the final skill tree, Steven.
Sure. We've got the Saronic Storm skill tree here, which is her elemental skill tree. It's mainly focused on fire and shock damage. It makes use of...
That's electrifying, Steven.
It's electrifying and inflaming.
That's hot, is what you meant to say.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's why you're a writer. It makes use of a stacking mechanic using Maelstrom, which as you deal fire and shock damage, you generate Maelstrom stacks, which increase your elemental damage output, and these stacks constantly decay over time, but that rate of decay increases as you build up more. So basically you get these big spikes of power as you generate your stacks. You have a lot of other skills, such as Smite, which add extra fire and shock attacks into your arsenal. This one is cool because when you're airborne, you can hit enemies with this fire and shock damage from above, and since we've got low gravity, like, it's really easy to trigger that off because you can easily spend a lot of time airborne. Zeus's Rage is a pretty cool one as well. It's a modification to the Aspis, so when she throws it out, it spawns a fire and lightning storm at the target location, dealing like constant damage to anyone it hits. And the cool thing about that is it'll generate you a ton of Maelstrom stacks as well, so it sort of snowballs you into all this extra damage. A few other cool skills here as well, like a capstone here, Hades Shackles. It modifies her slam attack so that any enemies damaged by it, she tethers herself to them with like a lightning tether. And if she keeps that tether without breaking it until the end of the duration, any tethered enemies release a fire nova, which hurts more people, generates more Maelstrom stacks, and she even gets bonus Maelstrom stacks on top of that. So you really want to make use of your slam and hit as many people as you can and really get a big spike in your Maelstrom stacks.
So yeah, this was just a little bit of Borderlands the pre-sequel with Anthony Birch.
I'm Stephen Mander-Jones.
And kiss people directly on the mouth that you love.
I'm putting you on ice.
What? I bloody want you to live, so I can snap their smug neck myself.
You what, mate? Nah, feel free to be killed by any of my highly professional minions.